Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled June 17th, 2025 Nacogdoches City Council meeting. Mr. Williams, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Yes. You bow your head, please. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for this day. Lord, thank you for bringing us here to this meeting. Lord, we just pray that you continuously watch over our council. Lord, in a harsh and mean world that we live in, we have decisions to make that's not going to satisfy everybody. Lord, let us not make mistakes, because when we make mistakes, we're sometimes governed in a way that we're not justly taken care of. Lord, we just ask that you watch over us and guide us. And we pray that we don't make any mistakes so that you won't forgive us as you always do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
You'll stand for the pledges, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, next item is open forum. We have one open forum request. Celeste Ferris. Ms. Ferris here? Okay, it was done online. Anybody want to speak for Ms. Ferris? Okay. We'll just move that to next time if she shows up. So if you'll hang on to that, Amy, please. Okay. All right. Next item, we'll go to awards and recognitions. And first will be Ms. Ballinger.
Okay. So I think I'm going to stand up and make Ruth stand up with me here. We're recognizing Ruth Carroll.
Get your microphone.
Is that a, I'll get you one. Hello? Got it. So Ruth, will you come up here, please? And we're going to have a little history lesson today because Ruth is part of the history of Nacogdoches. So, put this down. So I get to talk about her, and some of what I'm going to say comes from Pam Thorstensen, her good friend and partner in crime in the history of Nacogdoches. So bear with me a little bit. So when Pam first moved to Nacogdoches in July of 1982, little did she know that on the 4th of July party at a neighbor's home, it would set a course for her and for all of us in historic preservation. Bill and Sue Brophy invited all the neighbors to relax and review a recent episode in city government that had left Professor Brophy turning beet red on TV. And it was zoning. It was about what it did and did not mean to the neighbors, and that was the primary topic. And they formed a loose neighborhood association. Do you remember all this? So I figured you would. And to keep abreast of what the city was doing to us. I thought that was pretty interesting. And they later incorporated that into the Washington Square Neighborhood Association, which was later dissolved after Ruth solved all the problems. So Ruth was among those attending the holiday event, and she tried to patiently explain what was going on and why everyone might want to become involved, and the rest is history. She helped the city apply for certified local government status with the State Historical Commission because our city is the oldest town in Texas. And in order to do that, they had to form the Historic Landmark Preservation Committee, the HLPC, and they needed a city planner to do that, all of which she was involved with. During the time that they worked together, they worked on a historic site survey and commissioned it. And the result was 3 districts and several individual buildings that seemed to qualify for recognition as historic places. Did you all know that she was responsible for that? I did not know all this. The survey, it was used, I already said that. And then the city She helped the city to approve a historic overlay zone in the zoning ordinance. She got that in the zoning ordinance, isn't that great? And she had a lot of interaction with the city officials. All the efforts were time-consuming, and Ruth worked tirelessly to ensure that everything was completed on time and in the budget and approved by all governing bodies. She worked with consulting firms, state and local governments. And if you remember, this is not as it is today with faxes and internet. And, you know, it was hard work slugging through it all.
Got me out of the house, though.
Did you hear that? So also during her tenure, the Nacogdoches Historic Marker Program was undertaken with beautiful brass markers, and her leadership encouraged the city to start work to restore and preserve Zion Hill Baptist Church. So that dates all the way back to Ruth. Not a whole lot more here. But because the overlay was under the planning and zoning, they had to define also what was acceptable and not acceptable in an overlay. And it was a long, time-consuming project, and she tackled it willingly, and the new guidelines were approved. And she also tackled new guidelines for the Historic Landmark Committee. They attended most city and planning commission meetings in the 80s because zoning was a new concept to citizens, and even the commission members did not always fully understand the guidelines. And there is no such thing as spot zoning. I know you still talk about it to this day, and I'll give you the mic in just a minute, and you can talk about it some more. And waivers didn't exist. She had constant attention to details. The last thing I wanted to say was that we did hire the city planner, the first city planner in 1984, and she's actually on record at the city council meeting asking that the city planner be hired. And then in 2021, she agreed to serve on the Planning and Zoning Committee, and that was at another time, a critical time in our city's history. Ruth, you've served with experience, wisdom, and grace. You're a testament to what one woman can do in preserving historic Nacogdoches. And I'm going to end with what Pam said, Pam Thorstensen. I'm sorry, I do get choked up. I'm just so impressed with her. I can think of no one who served Nacogdoches City. Well, hold on. I like her quote. I can think of no one who served Nacogdoches better with patient humor over the course of many years than Ruth Carroll. So we wanted to recognize you, Ruth.
Thank you. It's nice to have people say nice things about you while you're still here to hear them.
And I'm sure they were saying these nice things about you when you were working so hard.
I'm not sure about that, but I'm pleased that you're doing this today, and I appreciate the council letting me be a nuisance for all these years. And I think Nacogdoches looks a lot better than it did back in the 80s, and I'm really pleased about that.
Well, thank you once again for everything you do. We have there you go. And here, we have a basket. Instead of a plaque for her, I mean, what you got to do with a plaque? So instead, we have a nice basket of goodies and the recipe book from the historic homes and the Carl Wilson Baker poetry.
Oh,
So
nice.
we thought
Thank
you'd like
you.
that.
Thank you.
And cookies. So I'll let you all.
Oops.
You want to take one together?
Sure.
Why don't you hand her the basket while the picture's going?
There you go. Here's your good.
Hold on a second.
I'll hold the basket. My paper in the way.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. I'm not good at this. I hate cookies. I know Ruth loves them.
I'm not a fan.
Thank you, thank you. Here's your card. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I'll walk you these ways.
Okay, it's indeed an honor to present today a proclamation for the Women's Veterans Day. See a lots of veterans out there. Somebody's got to come up here with me. How are you, Ms. Master? Good to see you. Good to see you. Okay. Whereas in 2025 marks the 77th anniversary of the groundbreaking Women's Armed Forces Integration Act, which was signed into law by President Harry S. Truman on June the 12th, 1948, enabling women to serve as permanent regular members of the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, and Air Force. Whereas the first Texas Women's Veterans Day was held on June the 12th, 2018, after Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed House Bill 2698 into law, designating June the 12th as Texas Women's Veterans Day. And whereas women have served and played vital roles in all of America's conflicts, from serving as soldiers, treating the wounded, and spying on the enemy during the Revolutionary War, to flying combat missions and reaching the highest ranks of command in recent conflicts. Further restrictions on the military service of women continued until they achieved and were granted the right to serve in direct ground combat assignments in 2013. And whereas women's veterans have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also as the forefront of numerous social change movements in history, paving the way for future generations to enjoy the unalienable rights, duties, and responsibilities afforded equally to all residents of the United States of America. And whereas the citizens of Nacogdoches strive to always honor and remember the service, sacrifice, and bravery of all the women's veterans, including those who made the ultimate sacrifice and laid down their lives to protect and defend our state and country, securing the freedoms and liberties that we enjoy, we are forever grateful to women veterans across the country and recommit to never forgetting their service, sacrifice, and example. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Randy Johnson, Mayor of the City of Nacogdoches, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize June 12, 2025 as Women's Veterans Day, and encourage all citizens of Nacogdoches, Texas, to support its humanitarian mission. Thank you very much, ladies. Okay, next item, items to be removed from the consent agenda.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we move E out of the consent agenda, please.
7E is to be moved. 6E, I'm sorry.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, excluding that item.
Have a second. Have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Can we wait just a minute until
sure.
give them an opportunity to get out?
Mayor, City Council, Case Opperman, Director of Public Works and City Engineer. Happy to answer any questions you might have about this item.
Well, I just wanted to hear about it.
Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry.
Pardon me? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. 6C is consider approval of an agreement by and between the City of Nacogdoches, ETX Part Fund Number 1, LP for reimbursement of a gravity sewer line installation to serve one parcel of land approximately 1.87 acres plus or minus in size, more particularly described by Nacogdoches Central Appraisal District parcel 26834 and generally located on Park Street near the intersection of Park Street and Martinsville Street in a not to exceed amount of $87,295.
I just was curious, what what is it, what's going on? A
Okay.
little bit more in detail.
Sure. It's a development that's proposed, obviously, along Park Street. The owner is actually here tonight, and I'd ask him to speak to any specifics, but there's a parcel that they're trying to extend sewer to be able to serve that parcel and then future tracks. So I'd invite Mr. Steele.
So before he comes up, I think it might be helpful to explain that, how the city is now trying to develop new properties and has embarked on reimbursing for some of the sewer lines for people who are developing. Is that correct? I mean, I asked about this item, so I
No,
wanted
it is.
to,
Gary, does it matter which order I answer those questions in?
so-
Okay, if it's okay.
Yeah.
So we have just a little recap. Chapter 106, our utility chapter in the ordinances, has a section about developer reimbursements. So basically extending sewer and/or water lines and then reimbursement of those at the completion of those efforts. So the city has budget each year for water and sewer in our CIP for developer agreements for line extensions. They have to essentially be designed, built, and tested to the city standards before we will accept them and reimburse for those projects. So the upfront costs are all on the developer. These agreements are put in place before that development occurs, just to have that, set in stone so that these agreements can be carried out. But after agreements are made, and it's the city council's prerogative whether they approve these or not, we will process all those paper or applications and submittals for payment after everything is basically installed, buttoned up to our standards, and then we will reimburse. This is a good ordinance, staff feels, for incentivizing development. A lot of these extensions are cost prohibitive, if not reimbursed. And so we do see a lot of undeveloped tracts that might be otherwise developed if they had the utilities to serve them. And so while it does obviously require the upfront cost that somebody does have to put up, it also allows them to recoup that cost. So I don't know if that explains well enough what your question was, but that's kind of the program.
And I think you might also add about how many feet that we reimburse
Okay.
for each property.
So for commercial developments, which include multifamily, like you see here, it's water and/or sewer, either 500-foot water, 500-foot sewer, or some combination thereof. So for commercial developments, it's up to 500 foot of reimbursement. And for residential, it's 100 feet.
So my question is it open to everybody that does this, or is this unusual?
No, this is not unusual. Again, there's clauses for residential and non-residential or commercial. So it's open to anybody who wants to develop. There are different limits on what the city will reimburse, and based on whether it's residential or commercial.
Is
And
this a
so-
relatively new program or an old program?
No, it's been here for a couple of decades, I believe. So
Really?
we've been doing them for many years.
We've already done one.
Yeah, we did one.
We did several last year, and we've done half a dozen or more in the past couple of years. So
Has
not a new
anybody
program.
tried to get it and failed?
Not since I've been here, I don't believe. So it's been a pretty
much open to
successful
everybody.
program. Yes,
You
sir.
build it and we'll help you.
That's right. As long as council sees the benefit and there's budget available, then generally those have been approved.
Okay.
Even on the commercial side, we've done it this year. Like in Earl Herrera's.
Yeah. Which we went out and looked at. Looks
Yeah, that was
great.
last year.
Right.
Two last year.
We did it.
Well, it's
for,
just now being done, though.
The only thing I'd add is y'all also,
right?
Sorry.
Freddy's.
We did.
I believe you also tweaked so it's not both. So it's a combination up to 500 feet, not 500 of each.
Correct. Well,
In the last
that's
year,
correct.
is that in about the last year that tweak was made?
Right. There was a clarification we made. It was a little unclear up until earlier this year, and Jerry and we, I should say, worked through getting some of that clarified. One of the main questions was about whether it was cumulative or just 500 either or. And so we made that clarification basically to say you can either apply for 500 foot of sewer, 500 foot of water, or some combination of water and sewer up to 500 feet. So 500 feet is the max for a developer agreement, no matter what.
So can someone else develop along that same line once it's in there if there's enough room, like next door to it or whatever?
They can extend it beyond that.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The requirement today is that a developer extend it to halfway across their property, which makes it easier for the next person essentially to extend it to their property. And so that's kind of why that stipulation's in there, is just to encourage development along the whole frontage there.
Okay.
Now, the only thing I'll say, this is kind of like just big picture, if our demand got to the point where we are blowing and going with continuous development, since we don't have impact fees, right? We don't have impact fees per se. That would be an area you could look at not subsidizing later. Because once your market responds, again, sometimes it's for a nudge, but it's not a handout. It's a, whatever, hand up or something. But you follow what I'm trying to say. So that would be, again, if the SFA boom occurs and it's going to happen, the fact we don't charge impact fees alone is a subsidy in and of itself.
And I'll just add, Council, Mike New, Executive Director of Development and Infrastructure. Again, you've heard a recent change we've made to our ordinance to allow for some clarification with that 500 linear feet, that's a combination of water and sewer, water and or sewer, depending on the needs of the development. In addition to the linear sort of caps on this, it's dependent on funds that have already been appropriated, $250,000 each for water and sewer, and we're in a slightly a position of first come, first serve, but that is a safeguard to just continuing acceptance or continuing review of these requests for utility extension reimbursement. In addition to that, all of these agreements are subject to council's discretion. So we present them to you as staff and with the applicant's proposal too, which I encourage you to listen to, for your discretion, and it's your decision to whether or not for the city to engage in that contract, depending on each development, and each one is going to be a little bit different.
And there is a cap on it per year or something?
Well, the cap is essentially what we budgeted for these agreements. Right now, the developer agreements for water are $250,000. We do, and council's approved that within our annual budget, and within sewer, it's $250,000 as well. So potentially up to $500,000 to extend these utilities. The goal is that after each reimbursement, we are accepting this infrastructure as our own. It simply helps facilitate its construction with development that's imminent. And that's why we've asked in this particular application to ask for a letter of intent, so we know what development is imminent. Thank you.
I'm good.
Would you like to hear about it from the developer, or does
Think
that
I've
answer all
heard
your
enough.
questions? Okay.
Unless they want to talk. Hi.
I'm Kimberly Bradshaw. I'm a Ben, moved away for a little while, came back, but I'm one of the general partners here, so these will probably help you guys go along with everything. What you need. Thank you. So. Hi. Okay, so we bought this land and a limited partnership in June of 2021. We've kind of gone back and forth on what we wanted to do with the property. Originally, we really would have liked to put in some residential lots, because I don't know if you know the lack of building lots in Nacogdoches inside the city limits. Right now is 12, so not very many options, only 4 on the northeast side, There's 3 on the northwest side, and 2 of those are in an over 55 community. So that limits the builder as well. And then we have 3 on the southeast side, I'm sorry, 1 on the southeast side and 3 on the southwest side of town. So, the plan is we would like to build 4 triplexes on a portion of the property that's next to the retirement community. And in order to do that, and for it to be cost effective for us, would be, we need the sewer line pushed up there. So, each unit will be approximately 1,700 square feet. We're gonna target that to young professionals positioned above the student segment. We do know that there is a lack, because I'm a real estate agent, we do have a lack of housing that focuses on young professionals, and that would be extremely beneficial, I think, for the Nacogdoches community, especially with, we were expanding with SFA. Let's see. So based on the initial estimates, this first phase alone will increase the local property tax revenue by approximately $80,000 annually. So we see you guys getting your money back in a little over a year from investing in this expansion. We believe this is a win-win for future residents, the city, and broader community. So it is part of a 43-acre tract. We've recently completed a survey and subdivision of the land. Lot 2 is already sold, and lots 3 and 4 are being actively marketed, and we're seeing significant interest in that. The entire Park Street frontage is well-positioned for a development. What we're hoping is, once we get that and we get the sewer managed, then we will be able to develop approximately the last 30 acres to be residential 1, is what we would like to do. But of course, we need the city's help on this initially. So, because I know the builders are having a hard time finding anything inside the city limits, and they're having to go pretty far out in the county in order to build new property. And then when you do that, your price of your housing is significantly increased, and you have, so the lower end, about 250 to 300, we're missing out on, because we don't have any new construction that's gonna get those, younger professionals into homes or downsizing into a new property. Let's see. So we're asking for the 500 feet. It's gonna take 750 feet of park, so we're gonna absorb that last 250 feet of sewer there. So that's what we're asking. You guys have any questions? No?
Brad, do you have any questions?
Not really. I just wanted to know about it.
Yeah.
'Cause
We're
I'm
really
trying to
excited.
Yeah, and I agree. We need more. Is it primarily in a single-family zoning area, or is
So
it?
it's R4.
Oh,
Is
okay.
what it's zoned,
It's already zoned that way.
so.
Well, unless you guys have more questions, I would like to move that we approve the agreement by and between the City of Nacogdoches and East Texas Park Fund Number 1 LP for reimbursement of a gravity sanitary sewer line installation to serve 1 parcel of land, 1.87 acres plus its size, more particularly described by the Nacogdoches Central Appraisal District Parcel 26834, and generally located on Park Street near the intersection of Park Street and Martinsville Street, in a not-to-exceed amount of $87,295.
Second. Mine was easier.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so
Motion
much.
carries unanimously.
One word, I read all that, all it took was one word.
I almost were in the mood to read.
There you go.
Okay, next item is our regular agenda, 7A. We're going to move 7A first. Yeah, but we're going to move 7L after 7A. Is that all right? Okay. So that way, we have some out-of-town people, and then that way they can get on the road. So 7A,
Oh, 7L, okay.
and then right after that, we'll move 7L to the next item so they can get out of here. Yeah, go ahead, Todd. It's receiving a presentation and consider approval of a bond ordinance by Hilltop Securities.
Mayor and Council, Todd Semino, Interim Director of Finance. We've been talking about the revenue bonds for a while. It started with the water and sewer rate study that we had last year that you approved, and we had a workshop as recent as last month to talk about it. But just a real quick general recap for the viewing public, the city has a 5-year capital plan, and part of that capital plan includes water and sewer infrastructure projects, and the cost of that capital plan over 5 years is a little over $100 million. The city's been very prudent and diligent, in my opinion, in putting money aside to help fund that capital plan. So we're prepared to put $40 million of cash into that capital plan, but we need to fund the other $60 million through revenue bonds. And since it's over 5 years, this is just the first phase, so we're going to ask for the issuance of $30 million for this tranche. So with that, we have our financial advisors and our bond counsel are here. So I'm going to ask John Martin with Hilltop Securities, he's our financial advisor, to walk through the bids that we got on the bonds this morning.
Thanks, Todd. I'm John Martin with Hilltop Securities. With me tonight is Michael Martin, my son and partner, and Bob Dransfield from Norton Rose Fulbright. He's the city's bond counsel. So the legal documents that the city attorney has there are drawn up by the Norton Rose Fulbright firm. So we provided at your place settings these booklets. I'm not going to take up your council meeting to go through that. Just want to hit on a few high points today. So as
Thank you very much.
In here, though, is some good information at your leisure. There is the rating report. We had an outstanding call with Standard & Poor's, nationally recognized rating agency. And this is different than the general obligation bonds that were voted and then partially sold. We still have some authorization left, as you know. So we sold some of those bonds that the voters approved. Those are go on the INS tax rate. These are not tax impact bonds at all. These are paid solely from your enterprise fund from the water and sewer revenues, and that you all have carefully worked through a rate study and worked through that to set up for to be able to afford the debt payments and some pay-as-you-go projects. So you'll be funding all these projects. A great plan, very well managed, as part debt, part pay-as-you-go, part cash, that type of thing. So the rating agency S&P loved that, and as a result, you earned a single A rating, which is very attractive. So the report is in the book here, tab 2. If you want to look at later. So today, we came to the point of selling bonds. So we chose to sell the bonds via competitive sale. The way these bonds are sold, it's like bidding on eBay, right? So all the Wall Street firms are aware that Nacogdoches is selling roughly $30 million of 20-year bonds that have an underlying rating of single A. Those bidders can choose if they want to buy third-party bond insurance for credit enhancement to bring that rating up to a double A rating rather than a single A. That's their cost, not yours. So that comes out of what they're making. Obviously, ultimately, it comes into the interest rate you're paying. But you can see there on the screens that we received 6 bids this morning. At 10 o'clock, these all came in, and the winning bid was from Wells Fargo at 4.38%, and then they went from there up 4.43 all the way from Fidelity Capital Markets. These are names most of you all have heard. Baird at 446, BOK Financial Services 447, and then TRB, that's Texas Regional Bank Capital Markets, 4.63, and then KeyBank Capital Markets out of Ohio, 4.7. So quite a spread, but you received 6 bids. That's fantastic. So your bonds were very much sought after. The way the issue works, and we're sorry that it didn't format very well for you, so it shows the par amount of bonds. So the city of Nacogdoches is considering the issuance of $28,745,000 of bonds. There's a premium on that of roughly $1,650,795.35. That's generated through the sale of the bonds, and I'll show you how that works in just a second. There's going to be a project fund deposit at closing here in a few weeks of $30 million. So the full $30 million will go in. And on top of that, that will pay the cost of issuance, which includes our firm, bond counsel, the rating agency fees, that type of thing comes out of that. That's a budgeted number. The bond insurance, that's what is coming out to pay for, to bring you from a single A to double A. Well worth it. You can only imagine what the difference is in a full credit rating bump for 20 years on 30 million. So, and then the underwriter's discount, that pays the salespeople at Wells Fargo, $149,000 and some change. And then there's some rounding because bonds have to be sold in $5,000 denominations. So what is this, how's this going to impact our budget in the water sewer budget? So this came in less than what we were expecting and what we showed you guys when we came and presented to you all a couple of months ago. So it's level debt service payments for 20 years, and you can see the interest rates and yields there as they were bid. And the total column, if you look at the far right, is just right around $2.3 million a year. So I think we're closer to 2.4 million when we talked to you all a few weeks ago. So that's how we got to the 4.38%. You can see the interest rates and yields there. So the city is paying 5% on $28,745,000 of bonds, but you're getting $30 million. So the way that additional amount is generated is through the difference in the interest rate and yield. So it's rate versus price deal, the way those bonds are sold. So they will pay you at closing the difference. So you will have the full 30 million plus your cost of issuance. That is basically our presentation, and I'm happy to go into any more detail that you would like, or you can get with Mr. Beverlin or Mr. Semino, that they know how to find us, believe me. If you have any further follow-up questions that we just didn't think of tonight, feel free. Happy to answer any questions. Mr. Dransfield is here as well.
You just need an approval? We need a vote for approval? Okay.
I do want to say one thing. I really appreciate both Rick and Todd and the work that's gone into this. And I don't know, Jerry, if you were part of that, but the work that's gone into it to make sure that we did all of the steps ahead of time. I knew that took quite a lot of steps ahead of time, making sure we have the rating. Did you want to say something, Rick?
I want to thank the whole staff, engineering, finance, everybody, economic development, because it was definitely a team effort.
Right.
And I do know how to find just about everybody, by the way. I can. I'll leave it at that.
It really had, for those of you who may not know about this, there's a lot that goes into it, and it's very, very tricky to get all of the steps, everything lined up so that we have the water rate increases when we need them and minimal. And it's very impressive. So thank you all very much.
I will say the staff was fantastic in our rating discussion. We had a Teams call with them, one in New York, one in Chicago. That's right. And then we had everybody was in remotely, and we had a full boardroom of staff, and it was very impressive. You all should be very proud of your staff.
We are. In case, I know you did a ton to all of you. Anyway, thank you all.
I was just going to say, as we move before we do the actual awarding, could we just get a quick synopsis of what we're planning on using these revenue bonds for? I know we've had the discussion, but.
Sure. And I brought our CIP list on paper, but this generally would cover a number of projects, both in water and wastewater. We had talked previously with council about two of the largest sewer main replacement projects. This initial tranche would fund the design of those two sewer mains, Lenana and Bonita Creek sewer mains, that basically take all of the sewer from north to south of the city down into our wastewater plant. It needs pretty much, and Case can attest, the majority of it needs to be replaced and repaired, or both. And so that's going to take the largest chunk, I think, of what would be the second tranche, which would be the actual construction of those interceptors. But in addition to that, we've got, like Todd said, over $100 million in projects within our CIP. The public can look at that on our website, nactx.us/CIP. And I can cover a few of them. Southwest Pump Station Interconnect, wastewater treatment, filter reconstruction, a number of improvements both at our plant, our water treatment plant and our wastewater plant. Primarily, though, I think this initial tranche will focus on a lot of wastewater plant, wastewater line improvements. Knock a lot of those out that we know need to be done critically and quickly. And once we get through that first tranche, we'll probably be coming back to you for the second one and continue moving forward with these improvements that we've already lined up within our capital improvement program.
So this $30 million is just going to be a drawing on a piece of paper?
A draw on a piece of paper?
Yeah. Is that all it is design and?
No. It does fund some actual
We
work.
can't move any dirt while we're doing this?
But I will say it's a lead-in. Two of the biggest ones, big ticket items,
Yeah.
are the design for
Okay.
those. Because those alone,
Good
the construction would be $30 million. So this doesn't quite get us there on those projects, but it gets us started.
Okay. That's a lot of money.
It's 300 years of deferred maintenance. That's the way you need to look at this.
Yeah.
And those
Well,
two
that makes
creeks,
sense.
I mean, just those two creeks alone, making sure we don't keep, putting sewage into our creeks is absolutely essential.
The outlays and the
Sorry.
discharges, I mean, we've had firms over the last dozen years come and analyze what needs to be done that
after-
would help improve our infrastructure along and through those creeks. This gets us started in a big chunk on the major projects. And it's not just that, but those other improvements, you will see things moving on the ground probably within the next year as we start utilizing these funds.
Does this get us just up to what we have now, or is it planning for the future? because of
There
the
is some
SFA
planning for the
boom?
future. Even the interconnect reconstruction, the design would try to accommodate what our projections are for some future growth. So there'd be some additional capacity that we would look at for those designs, including a wastewater treatment plant. Any improvements would be trying to factor in what the future would look like for the next 10 to 20 years.
So the wastewater treatment plant might be rebuilt, or, because
Not-
we're always doing
not with
something
this first-
emergency-wise
Not with this
on that.
first tranche,
I don't
but
mean
certainly
first tranche,
some of the
but-
planning efforts for that would be included here too.
Okay.
Yes.
And Mike, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to forget about you. You're integral in all of this, so thank you very much for everything.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. We've got
It
a good
says
team.
approval, we don't need to approve
This
them.
is just a presentation item, Council.
Okay.
The next item will be the ordinance.
Okay, then we're going to move
Okay.
to item 7L,
Oh, I see. Okay.
which will be consider approval of an ordinance
Got it.
after any discussion, which sounds like we've had, of the Waterworks and Sewer System Revenue Bond Series 2025.
Can we just do a motion? Oh, okay.
I move to adopt the ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of City of Nacogdoches Waterworks and Sewer System Revenue Bond Series 2025 and approving all matters incident thereto.
Second? Second. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Jerry, do you need me to sign anything? Okay, all right, okay. Okay, next item, 7B, is a public hearing. Discuss and consider action on zoning case ZON 2025-07 regarding a zone change from B2, general business, to R2, single-family residence district for one parcel of land approximately .34 plus or minus acres in size, more particularly described by the Nacogdoches Central Appraisal District Parcel 23897, and generally located east of Old Tyler Road and approximately .5 miles north of the intersection of Power Street and Old Tyler Road.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Juan Paulette, City Planner.
Could you say that one more time?
Yeah, just say it one more time. We're tired of hearing that interim.
Juan Paulette, City Planner.
Glad you're here, Juan. Thank you.
Thank you. So this property fronts Old Tyler Road, is approximately .34 acres in size and is undeveloped. The subject property is surrounded by a mix of zoning districts and land uses. The adjacent properties are Zone B2 general business, but are developed with single-family homes. To the east is an undeveloped R4 multifamily tract that was approved for dirt extraction late last year and has since completed work operations. The future land use plan designates the subject property as single-family residential. Staff believes that the future land use plan designation of the property is consistent with the proposed zoning and aligns with the existing residential development pattern in the area. This is a view of the subject property from Old Tyler Road and some adjacent single-family homes that are fronting Old Tyler Road. This slide shows the types of uses within the 200-foot notification area. Staff sent out 13 public meeting notices to those property owners and 4 notice postcards to property owners within 200 and 500 feet. Staff did receive 1 response from the adjacent property owner to the north concerning a sewer line that is crossing over the subject property. Staff met with the individual parties involved as well as the utility construction manager, and we discussed solutions for that. Because the zone change request is less intense use, no neighborhood meeting was required. Staff believes that this request meets the conditions for approval as stated in the staff report, and the P&Z recommended approval of this item on June 9th, and I'll be happy to answer any questions after the public hearing.
This is a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing to comments from the audience. There being none, we will close the public hearing and go to council discussion. Any questions for our city planner?
I have one for clarification. Could you explain the difference between R2 and R1 residential zoning?
Yes.
Since you are the new planning.
So the difference between the two zonings is density. R2 allows for a little more density. The minimum lot size for R2 is 60 feet wide by 100 feet deep versus R1 requires a minimum of 75 feet width by 110 feet in depth.
And what do you mean by density?
Just the amount of houses you can put on a single lot, or not houses, but the density as far as lot size. R2 allows for more houses in one area versus R1, not as many.
How many houses would it be?
You can only put one house on one lot on both R2 and R1.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve zoning case Zone 2025-07 regarding zone change from B2 general business to R2 single-family residential.
Okay, have a motion. Do we have a second? Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, 7C, is a public hearing. Discuss and consider action of zoning case ZON 2025-08 regarding a zone change from I-1 light industrial to R4 multifamily district for 2 parcels of land approximately 1.6 acres plus or minus in size, more particularly described by Nacogdoches Central Appraisal District, parcels 23169 and 23166. And a zone change from B2 general business to R4 multifamily for 1 parcel of land approximately quarter of acres plus or minus in size, more particularly described by Nacogdoches Central Appraisal District, parcel 23167, and generally located on the west side of South Pecan Street, approximately 500 feet west of the intersection of South Pecan Street and South Fredonia Street. City Planner.
Thank you, Mayor. Juan Paulette, City Planner. So this zone change is for 3 undeveloped parcels located on the southern end of South Pecan and total just under 1.5 acres. The southern 2 parcels are zone light industrial and the northern parcel is zone general business. The applicant is requesting that all 3 be rezoned to multifamily. The subject properties are zoned in a transitional area with a mix of zoning districts and land uses. To the north, the properties abut existing single-family homes that are zoned B2 general business, and to the south, the adjacent properties are zoned light industrial and are developed with a mix of commercial and residential uses. The subject property is in a designated FEMA flood zone All new structures in this area are required to be built 2 feet above the base flood elevation level. The future land use plan designates the subject properties as rural development. The proposed R4 zoning aligns with this intent by supporting residential development in a manner consistent with the area's transition from industrial and commercial uses to residential character. Staff finds that this request is generally consistent with the goals of the comprehensive plan, specifically in avoiding undesirable development outcomes by ensuring compatible development when differing land use types or intensities are located in close proximity. And this is a picture of the subject property from South Pecan. And the picture on the left shows the residential houses to the north, and the picture on the right shows the auto mechanic shop directly across the subject properties. So this slide shows the types of uses within a 200-foot notification area. Staff sent out 16 public meeting notices to those property owners and 20 notice postcards to property owners within 200 and 500 feet. Staff has not received any responses in favor or in opposition of the request. Because it's a down zoning as well, no neighborhood meeting was held. And staff believes that this request meets the conditions for approval as stated in the staff report. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval on this item on June 9th. And I'll be happy to answer any questions after the public hearing.
This is a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing for any comments from the audience. John, you want anything? John, do you want to say something? Okay. Okay, there being none, we'll close the public hearing and go to council discussion, if any. Somebody wants to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve the zoning request outlined in item 7C.
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item. Consider approval of a contract bond between the City of Nacogdoches and Drury Construction for the 2025 street paving project in the total of amount of $2,180,788.60.
Mayor, City Council, Case Opperman, Director of Public Works and City Engineer. As you'll remember, in 2023, during our bond election, we included $10 million in street improvements. The first tranche of bond sales that we made last year included $2.5 million of that $10 million. So we had $2.5 million to spend with tranche one, and we spent just over $400,000 on that, on the curb and gutter and valley gutter project that we did this spring. And that's come to a successful conclusion, and we're ready to start paving. So that leaves us with about $2.1 million, just under, from the remaining tranche one bond money for this 2025 street paving project. The project we have outlined is on it's on 28 streets throughout town, many that have been commonly requested by the public, and we've been trying to get paved for some years. We are going to patch and overlay 15 streets. We're going to mill and inlay 8 streets, which have already had an overlay on them. And then we're going to totally reconstruct 5 streets here in town. And those with cement stabilization. Every time. I'm holding the thing. Thank you, Mike. And so just to be clear, I know the alternates can get a bit confusing, but just to make it easy, the base bid was for the majority of the streets. We did alternate bid 1 for 4 of the streets, just to make sure we had enough money with the bid to actually award the project. Didn't want to overdo the street list and then come in over budget. So we split them up a little bit, did the majority of them in the base bid, and then had 4 of them still in the alternate bid 1. Then the remaining 4 bids, alternate bids, were for the chemical stabilization options on the base bid and the alternate bid respectively for fly ash and cement. So alternate bids 2 and 3 were fly ash cement stabilization on the base bid and the alternate one. And then 4 and 5 were for cement stabilization. Not all of these were gonna be taken, they were options. And so we laid them out that way so we could kind of do a à la carte, bid award. So fly ash, is what staff, prefers. It's a little bit harder to obtain sometimes, which is why it's a little higher. But it's, what we feel is a better product in the end, because cement, while it works, will tend to crack. And so it's just like cement is in concrete, so concrete cracks after it cures if it shrinks and swells. So still structurally stable, but the preference is to minimize cracking in the street if possible. So we prefer fly ash. And they did come in reasonable on the pricing, so we were comfortable recommending the fly ash for award. So for all the streets, base bid and alternate 1 bid, and then alternate 2 and 4 for fly ash stabilization on the base bid and the alternate 1. Drury Construction came in low at just under 2.2 million. Lone Star Equipment out of Henderson was just under 2.5 million, and then Texas Materials also gave us a bid for just over 3.3 million. Very happy with that bid. Original estimates for the project were about 2.2 million, and so we were happy with that amount from Drury Construction. Drury's obviously done a lot of work for us successfully over the years with our street paving projects, and so we're happy to recommend them as the low bid for award on this project. We have just under 2.1 million remaining in the tranche 1 bond money. And then the remainder would come out of the street maintenance fee, which has plenty of budget available. And so we would recommend the total low bid to Drury Construction in the amount of $2,180,788.60. I'd be happy to answer any questions after public comment, if any.
Nobody signed up. Any discussion?
I just want to know when, obviously after the bid is awarded, how soon will we start seeing the?
I've already got executed contracts from Drury. So as soon as we can get all the bonds and everything signed off on, we will schedule a pre-construction meeting with them. And my goal is to have them paving in early July.
So I just want to thank you, Case, and the entire engineering staff. I know we do a lot of this design in-house. We do all of it in-house?
All of it, yes, sir. Except for the testing. We outsource the testing to a lab in Lufkin, but we do all the engineering work in-house, yes.
So I know that's a big lift to get an annual street paving project done, so thank you for that. I'd also want to say to my council colleagues and to the public, this is us making good on what we said we would do with the bonds. I know I've seen it on Facebook and all the other social media places, Nacogdoches Talk. When are we going to start seeing work done on streets? When is that going to happen? Well, if you look at this map, you'll see that work happening, and we're making good on it. So thank you.
And what everybody's going to want to know is, yes, West Star is on the
West Star is on the list.
On the list, and I'll be pushing for it to be paid first. So we've got several others that have, like I said, been ones we've been trying to get to for a while. Oakview Drive, Virginia Avenue, and like I said, 25 others. So we're delighted to be able to pave this volume of streets with the bond money, and thank you once again to the voters for allowing this.
This is just the first tranche, right?
First tranche, yes, sir.
And you'll keep people aware of what's going on your, I know, Mike, they're nodding your head, because that's really, really helpful to keep people aware. And you can go to the engineering site.
It's on the CIP page.
CIP page?
Yeah, well, yes, it will be. All of our project updates get uploaded there.
And that's
So
nactx.us/CIP.
CIP.
Yeah. Right.
Sorry, we got to it before you did, Mike.
And I know you know this, but we can update council on how the contractor actually notifies the folks that live on those streets too.
Okay. we will broadcast ahead of time. We try to do it a week early. Which streets will be on the radar for the coming week during construction? Sometimes our pavers outpace our notification, but we try to keep up. It's actually a good thing, you know, that means they're not dragging around. But they will always put door hangers out if nothing else, and so we do our best to notify residents and business owners, whoever might be affected on a certain street, that they can expect some disruption in the coming days or weeks. All traffic that's local will be accommodated. It may take a second for the paving machine to get out of the way, but people can get in their driveways. It does make it easier when through traffic decides on alternate routes, just because you might be sitting there for a little while waiting on a milling machine to get out of the way. But we do our best to accommodate all of the local traffic as much as we can.
We see a lot of TxDOT doing a lot of paving right now. They have taken Shawnee Street all the way out to Woton Road and cut it off. From Woton Road, from that point
Yes, sir.
to the loop.
We actually own that. So we paved it back in, I think, 2015 or 16. And that actually, the FM road turns right there at Woden and goes out to the southeast. So it's actually why it's designated Rayburn Drive instead of Shawnee from that point. So Rayburn Drive picks up at Woden Road and heads south on that alignment. So we actually own and maintain that.
So it needs to be maintained from there farther right now because it's a wagon road.
Is it already time to visit that one
Yes, time
again?
to see that in the-
We fixed one, yeah, I was wondering. You know, like I said, it was done about 10 years ago, so I guess that's the life of that one, huh? Well, we'll put it back on our radar then.
Yeah, because I keep getting a lot of, why did we quit right there?
Sure, it's understandable, because it's not necessarily, you know, intuitive that's a city street instead of an FM road, but that is what happened there. Shawnee and Woden are both FM roads, but that section of Rayburn Drive is not.
Is not, okay. Now I got some answers.
Case,
Got
did,
'em. And just speaking of TxDOT, you know, just to reiterate, TxDOT is, you know, you've seen, again, TxDOT, like you said, is doing a lot of paving work here in town inside the loop. They've done Highway 21, they've done well on either side of Main Street, and then out Highway 7 out to the loop as well, after the Y there. They are planning on North Street, another TxDOT roadway, not city maintained, but it's on the list for this summer as well. We actually have, y'all approved a construction contract on a sewer pipe bursting job on North Street a couple of weeks ago. And so we are actually working on that currently. And so construction's starting on that this week, hopefully. And we are going to hurry up and do that sewer line job so that we can get out of the way so that North Street can then be repaved, as well as South Street. So, yeah, hey, y'all have heard me say it. I don't want to do it to TxDOT, you know, where they pave and then we tear it up. I don't like that. So they're waiting on us. They're still doing some work on their other streets, but they're waiting on us to finish. So we'll get out of their way as soon as we can, and then everybody will have a new North Street to drive on, and South Street, as I understand. So it's a good paving year.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna be happy.
Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve the contract by and between the City of Nacogdoches and Drury Construction for the 2025 street paving project in the total of amount of $2,180,788.60.
second.
We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 7E, consider approval of ordinance of the City of Nacogdoches, Texas, amending Chapter 86, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places, Article 2, Public Places of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Nacogdoches, Texas, providing a severability clause, providing a continuation clause, and providing a repeal clause, and providing an effective date. Mr. Baker, City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Jerry Baker, City Attorney. I've got before you a proposed amendment to one part of our ordinance, sections 86-27. Hopefully you have a copy of that in front of you. You'll see a lot of red marks there. And one caveat before I begin the slideshow, none of the pictures that I'm going to show you are from the city of Nacogdoches. They are for illustration purposes only. So just don't want anybody to come off either from the dais or anybody watching to believe that these are from our city, because they're not. They're just for illustration only. Okay, so the ordinance we have before you is to deal with the regulation of unauthorized camping on city property. This is an issue that's nationwide right now. It became a bigger issue recently when the Supreme Court struck down or overturned a ban on any kind of regulation that the Ninth Circuit had instituted in the city of an Oregon city. I can't remember which one it was, but that was, I think, in 2024 or 2023. I can't remember the exact year, but in any case, it became kind of national news at that point, and cities across the nation have been dealing with this issue, as well as here in the state. What you see before you on the current slide is what our current ordinance says. Section 86-27 currently states, no overnight camping is permitted on any city-owned property unless permitted by the city manager or his or her designee. And that's the extent of the ordinance. The problematic portion of that is there's really no definition of what it means to camp. We have a caveat in there that requires overnight camping to be shown to enforce that ordinance. And that has become difficult for NPD to prove or establish that somebody is camping overnight if they do come up upon a campground or something like that. So in my discussions with NPD, they've really relied upon the Penal Code Section 48-05 if they're going to enforce any type of violations of any kind of overnight camping. I've put the main part of the Penal Code section in front of you. It just states that any person commits an offense if the person intentionally or knowingly camps in a public place without the effective consent of the officer or agency having the legal duty or authority to manage the public place. As you can see, there's no overnight requirement, and in fact, the Penal Code includes a definition of camp, which means to reside temporarily in a place with shelter. That's the extent of the definition. But they also, to give evidence of that, you could note that there was cooking being performed there, making a fire, storing personal belongings for extended period, digging, or even sleeping. So those are the kind of things that they look at in determining whether or not someone is camping, at least in violation of the Penal Code. Here's the downside of that section of the Penal Code, is that under subsection I of that code, if there is a person arrested for violation of the offense and there are contraband or other personal property that is associated with that camping, so let's say a tent, a mattress, whatever it may be, a tarp, if that person is taken into custody, that property has to be maintained by the police department at the time of the arrest and stored until that person is released from custody and comes back to retrieve the property. And that's become the problem for, in my discussions with NPD, is that more often than not, these individuals do not come back and retrieve this property after they are released from custody. And therefore, the city is stuck storing this property. And as you can see, there's no end in, as far as, there's no time limitation in the statute. There's no period of time when they get rid of the property. So essentially, the city would be required to maintain custody and store that property for perpetuity. And so there is another subsection in that penal code which it says it does not preempt an ordinance if the ordinance or order or the regulation is underlined here is compatible with or equal to or more stringent than the offense prescribed in the section or relates to an issue not specifically addressed by this section. And that's what we're attempting to do with this amendment that's before you. So as you can see in the, on page 2, you can see a lot of red there. What we were trying to do is redefine, provide some definitions, provide some clarity for our police officers as they go about trying to enforce this ordinance. So it says now it should be unlawful for any person to camp in any city-owned property unless specifically permitted by the city manager or his or her designee. Provides a definition of camp similar to what we see in the state statute, occupying or residing in a location as a dwelling place for any length of time, and includes activities such as storing personal property, making a campfire, using a vehicle, tent, improvised shelter, or other structure for living accommodations, cooking, sleeping, or digging. So it does give some more clarity for the police officers as they approach someone, or code enforcement, is that if they approach someone maybe at a park or whatever, on a trail, and they see this type of activity going on. What it does clarify and makes a distinction from the penal code is that when it comes to compensation of this any kind of personal property that may be taken at the time of arrest, or if someone is not even there anymore and they can't locate that person. So it makes no warranty or guarantee concerning the storage of the property. It limits the storage requirement for 30 days. So they will still have the opportunity to come back and get their property once they be released from confinement. But the city is not going to be responsible for that beyond 30 days. And it does have an exception. So if there is, some of that property may be deemed to be a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the public. And as you can see under subsection or section D, that might include fire hazards, explosive hazards, infectious or pathogenic hazards, or infestations of vermin, etc. Those kind of things. If those things are included or found in that personal property, then they can be immediately disposed of. So there are some exceptions that have been included as well for any kind of city official or employees in their official capacity. Any contractors of the city that's necessary as part of the contract terms, and any kind of special event. And I've got a picture of, a camping that's associated with some reenactors or something along those lines. So if we had something along as part of a special event, Blueberry or whatever it may be, and we could allow for public camping on public or city-owned property at that time. Any questions?
I have one.
Sure.
A few years ago, they put in a bunch of water lines that you can lock up down in Festival Park. I don't know how many there are. Do you know, Jessica?
I believe 15 to 20. I have to double check, but somewhere around 15 to 20.
And I didn't know what that was for, and I drove down there and checked it. You can just turn on the water, and it has electrical outlets, so it's like for camping. Is it for camping?
That I'm not aware of. I would assume it would be for any kind of special event to use for vendors and the like, but Jessica probably clarify that.
Yeah, Jessica can clarify. It is for vendors, like during Blueberry Festival, to hook up their food trucks, things of that nature. But they can be locked out. I think you have zip tied some of them, but we have had that discussion.
Mayor, Council, Jessica Sal, Community Services Director. Just for clarification, as far as the electrical outlets, those RV pedestals, those, especially in the middle of Festival Park, are turned off unless there's a special event. There are some times where they're on for several days. If our staff turns it on Friday for a Saturday event, then they turn them back off on Monday. There is some electricity that's on at all times, similar to all of our parks where our park pavilions have electricity, mainly because those circuits are on the same as our security lights. So it's, unless we redo all the electricity, those things stay on. The water is on the 15 to 20 spigots. Most of those get zip tied. Sometimes they get broken off during events, and our parks guys go back out there to fix them. That's the solution we've come up with thus far, because turning off water and turning it on for an event is a little bit harder. It wasn't designed that way.
It has a hole for locks to be put in there.
Yes, and we've put in locks a few times. Those walk off after events sometimes or get lost, so we are looking at more of a permanent solution with keyed locks. Of course, that comes with staff time, which is not a bad thing, but we're just trying to find the best solution for that. But there is a possibility to lock it up. They were not designed for camping. It was more for Blueberry Festival, Old Town Rig Down, any event that would need extra electricity. Before those things were put there, the only electricity was at the pavilion and the stage, and people blew those breakers all the time. And so with the necessity of all those events downtown, we added some more utilities.
Okay, thank you. I have another question, if it's okay?
Sure.
When this stuff, when somebody is camping and you pick it up and you store it, where do the police, where do you get to store it? And who runs that storage thing? Do you have to get a storage unit? Is that Jerry's responsibility?
It is.
It's over on Houston Street now.
It's on
Good
Houston
answer.
and Mound?
Houston Street.
Yeah, thank you, Rick.
Houston.
That's where he lives.
Scott Williams, Chief of Police. All right, so where we store it, or where we're supposed to store it, is some of the important stuff or the valuable stuff inside the property room, and some of the larger tents and stuff like that would be on the back ramp. But we don't have the room to continue to store all this.
That's what worries me.
As you've seen with the pictures.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of
Stuff.
trash,
So we're making,
basically.
we're making an ordinance that we can't uphold in some ways, right?
We can uphold it.
To a point.
What Jerry did was make it easier on us because, like he said, it was indefinite. We had to hold it
Right.
indefinite and they never came back for it. Now it's 30 days and it's abandoned property and we can destroy it.
Or if it's deemed that it's infested with
Right,
bed bugs,
Right.
throw it away.
right. And the camps that we come across are
Nasty.
nasty,
Does
nasty.
this add a lot of extra work for you guys?
It does, because then we have to haul it, store it, we have to label it, where we got it, whose it is, whose property it is, and yes.
But
And then
this
enter that in
ordinance,
the
but
database.
this ordinance will reduce the work.
It'll reduce the time,
It'll reduce.
hopefully not unfortunately not the work. So,
Well, it doesn't increase the work, does it?
No,
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 it just reduces it.
but it
So-
it reduces the time, and that way we can get rid of it.
So how much can you get rid of, like tomorrow, when we pass this ordinance?
Well, there's not a whole lot. We've been,
Uh-oh, no, you don't have to answer that
Okay,
question.
thank you.
Thank you. Sorry,
we've handled it in different ways.
thank you.
Okay.
It's all been, yeah, probably, got it.
Any other questions?
Put him on the line.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Put him on the line.
Do you have any questions, Randy?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
Sure, I make the motion that we, what item are we on here? Oh, that we approve the ordinance outlined in item 7E.
Second.
We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item, 7F, discuss and consider field lease agreement by and between the City of Nacogdoches and Nacogdoches Sports and Entertainment LLC. Jessica, please.
Mayor, Council, Jessica Sal, Community Services Director. I know this agenda item doesn't necessarily explain what we're going to talk about today. It's not quite as bad as some of our engineering ones. Sorry, Case. But essentially what the item before you today is a field lease agreement between the City of Nacogdoches and Nacogdoches Sports and Entertainment LLC, otherwise known as the Mid-America League, where I'm very, very excited about this agenda item today. So what this does is create an agreement for the use of the JC Field. For those of you who haven't been out there or haven't been out to the field in a long time, this is essentially home of the Lumberjack baseball right now. This allows Mid-America to establish a team in Nacogdoches for summer of 2026. This is a team that mainly has NCAA, I think 1, 2, and 3 divisions, plus some amateur players that would play in a summer baseball league here. Before I kind of go through some of the specifics, I do want to mention that this agreement does not affect the use of the baseball complex by the youth organization or SFA. Those agreements are still in place. Both of those organizations have looked at this agreement, have agreed that it's good for the complex. So this doesn't hurt any of their uses. If approved, this will allow us to establish a team in Nacogdoches for the summer of 2026. Mid-America will be allowed to sell concessions and alcohol similar to what SFA does currently, and also sets the boundaries of their use within the complex. The agreement, which I will say Jerry worked very, very hard to do and come up with an agreement that's good for all parties, outlines rules, responsibilities of all parties, the timeframes that these games would go on, and the investment into the complex by all the parties. It outlines what the city is responsible for, what Mid-America is responsible for, and it should be a great agreement for everybody. Right now, it talks about Mid-America is responsible for the janitorial and security during their events and during their games. They can sell those concessions and alcohol. They're also in charge of security. They are also going to do $25,000 worth of improvements to our complex. They will be paying above and beyond what we normally pay for utilities at the complex, and will also be giving us a portion of their ticket sales. We're really excited because this should be a really great summer entertainment option. Most of the players do live locally, and this would be our Nacogdoches team that would then travel around to play other teams. Currently, there are several Texas teams. This is only the second year, or this will be the second season. There's teams in Abilene, Sherman, Texarkana, White Oak, and then Fort Smith, Arkansas, and Joplin, Missouri. Also Fort Scott, Kansas, and Beaumont, Texas just announced teams for the 2026 season. So we are hoping to be a part of that as well. In this next picture, you can also see this is the use area for Mid-America. Essentially, it's the same footprint as SFA, including the parking lot. The alcohol boundary is also the same except for the parking lot. You can't take alcohol into the parking lot. And they will be required to enter into another agreement with SFA for field maintenance. Excuse me. So SFA will be maintaining the fields like they currently do, and Mid-America will pay them to keep up that work. And if they would like to use a newly renovated concession stand, they'll have to do a separate agreement with youth baseball for the use of that piece of property. So we're very excited about this. Another fun fact about the Mid-America team is if they do establish here, the community gets to help name the team. They do a big call for, tell us some names. We get to help narrow it down, and then I believe there's a vote for the top three. I think Beaumont's going through that right now. So they really like to have names that represents the communities they're in. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Nacogdoches Pine Cones.
The oldest baseball team in Texas.
I like that. As soon as they open that, you can write those names in.
I tell you, I've been involved in youth baseball for years, some good, some bad, but this is a great deal for Nacogdoches. Did SFA have any influence on this, or did they just approach you?
They actually approached Mr. Bevelin.
Really?
And he set up the meeting with us. Once we had chatted with them, as far as with our city attorney, city manager, and myself, then we brought in SFA to make sure they were good with it. Mr. McBroom had met with the Mid-America representatives, reviewed the contract. I believe the email string that Jerry and I have going between SFA, myself, and Mid-America is roughly 60 emails long at this point. So everyone's reviewed it, and they were very, very excited.
I'm really excited about this. I think this will be a good deal for this city, and I hope it lasts a long time. You know.
I do as well.
The only thing I'll say is this is rather be lucky than smart. And I do believe there are several cities that have been trying to recruit, minor league teams. This kind of speaks to trying to leverage and use the things we have, the fact that we had the improvements from the rig down on the concessions. Again, I'd rather just fate bring it, but they were very generous. We didn't have to do anything financially to recruit them. They're actually paying us, and it'll help fill in some time and visitation. I think it will help promote baseball in general here.
I agree.
Along with tourism.
Right.
You want a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
For approval of the field lease agreement by and between the City of Nacogdoches and Nacogdoches Sports and Entertainment, LLC.
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Do we get to say
Thank
play
you.
ball now?
Oh, we should have ended with that. Thank you.
Nacogdoches Pine Cones.
Oh, Lord.
Go Pine Cones.
Go old.
That's bad. Okay. Next item, 7G, consider approval of the purchase of an interview recording system and approval by and between the Nacogdoches Police Department and Motorola Solutions. Chief Weems.
Chief Weems, Nacogdoches Police Chief. So this is to start this off, our interview room our cameras in it are shot. They're probably 16 years old, and they're antiquated. Anything over 5 years old is antiquated in IT, so, as you know. So, we recently purchased, the city did, the PD did, purchased body-worn cameras from Motorola, and those body-worn cameras came with warranty, cloud-based storage, easier to use system. And so what we wanted to do was go ahead and integrate these cameras, which they're the same Motorola cameras, in the interview room. That way they hook right up to our storage, our iCloud storage, and easy access. So it was a win-win once we started talking to Motorola. So long story short, when we got the first bid, they turned it in at 18.5, which is the bid you see now. And then we got a call that said that was not the right bid, that it was like $44,000. And so I happened to talk to the people out at the Peace Officers Memorial, the head honchos with Motorola, and explained to them, because I'd already put it on the finance list, we were going to purchase this for 18.5, and I said it's going to be an embarrassment for me to go back and say, nah, it's 44,000. And so I told them I'm walking away. Anyways, long story short, they called me the next Monday and said, we'll do the 18.5 and throw in all the warranties and add it. So we saved a lot of money, but we have to jump on it now. This was projected for next fiscal year, but with the savings, I think we need to jump on it now, because it's $14,000 down, and then year two, which is next year, or next fiscal year, it's $1,081. So I think it's a no-brainer.
I'd like to say this. Being in business, I've had to eat a lot of things and put ketchup on it and swallow it.
Right.
And it says a lot for this company to
step up.
To step up.
They did.
And they did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you're dealing with good people if they do that.
Right.
And anybody got any more questions, I'll go ahead and make the motion on that right now, you know.
I'm just glad to hear something's going down. You know?
Right.
Because all we
Right.
get is up.
It was
Right.
a mistake.
I know, but I like those kind of mistakes. We need more of them.
But then we got to pounce on those mistakes.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Did you make the motion?
Yes, ma'am, I
I'll
did.
second.
Have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Next item, 7H, discuss, update, and consider adoption of the updated City of Nacogdoches Public Events Guidelines. Jessica.
Mayor, Council, Jessica Saligan. The item you have before you today is discussing and update and consider adoption of our public event guidelines. As a quick refresher, City Council and city staff really started looking at these guidelines around January of this year. We came to council February 12th and then again on March 4th to kind of workshop these ideas and these guidelines, come up with something that was beneficial for the community. At that time, council adopted the event permit guidelines and a fee structure with the instruction that if there was clarifications needed or any updates to bring it back to council, so that's why we're here today. There are a few updates. Some of these are just wording clarifications. Other ones, there is one specific section that we need some guidance from council on. It's under the private event section, alcohol section, and road closure section. And I'll kind of go through the wording and have that up on the screen as well. And it is in your packet. So this wording kind of clarifies what type of private rentals are allowed, updates the alcohol permit wording, updates the road closure section, which is where we are going to need some direction from the council, and then some additional wording about temporary road crossings that was requested by our police department. So in here, the words in red, if approved, we put into these guidelines. The first one, which if you do have the guidelines in front of you, is on page 2 of the guidelines. But essentially, that outlines what type of private rentals can happen on city property. I know there was some concern at one of the last council meetings, what about people that are renting these park pavilions for their children's birthdays? And we want to make sure that was very clear that you can still do those things. We tell people when they rent the park pavilions that they have exclusive use of the pavilion, not the whole park itself. But we do want people to be able to have that exclusive use, so that way if you've rented the pavilion for your child's birthday and you come up and somebody else is using it, you can politely ask them to leave and show them your rental slip that you have exclusive use for the day. So in that section, we outline park pavilion rentals, Liberty Hall, which is a city rental facility, the Zion Hill Baptist Church, and the Recreation Center Gymnastics Room. Those are areas we already rent out, that council's approved a fee structure many years ago for some of these. And we want people to know that when they do rent that out, they do have the expectation of it is a private event. You're not going to have someone walking into your wedding. Staff is on site to make sure that you still have that event. So that item, or that section was updated a bit, just with some clarifications. We also have some clarifications under alcohol sales. In our ordinance, it makes it very clear that the city manager has sole discretion to approve or deny those. It wasn't put as clearly in these guidelines, so we wanted to update that as well. Do y'all have any questions on those two before I move on? Our next section, where we're going to need a little bit of direction from council, is on road closures. I believe there was kind of two different definitions floating around. We had quite a bit of discussion during those workshops, and I think a bit got lost in translation on the staff side. So the way we were operating before these guidelines was that if it was a public event, which meant an event that anybody could come to from the general public, we could close streets for those things. I believe there was some direction from council that may have got missed when we put these in the guidelines, that really road closures were meant for city-partnered events or city-sponsored events. So those would be events that a city department puts on and puts money into staff time, or a city-partnered event that could be something like Blueberry, that we are essentially partnering by allocating public funds, either giving money to or putting staff time into. And those would be the only events that you could close a road for. It doesn't mean there couldn't be other types of events happening in different parks, but these would be the only type of events you could close a road for. So really on this item, we needed some direction from council as far as what was the intent for the road closure portion.
Go ahead. So is it, the understatement in all this is when they close the street for a wedding?
Yes.
And we thought that maybe was a mistake?
Yes.
So
And
that's the underlying issue,
Well,
right?
yes and no. I think the other one is, if you look at the overall manpower issue, if you look at street closures, if you look at in the past where you might have a person renting, I guess, the band shell,
Yes, at Festival Park.
which our opinion is, if there's a road closure and police involved and basically rental of, however, use of the whole park, that should be for a city-sponsored event or a city-partnered event only. We have other parks and facilities that are outlined for the other uses. Because those are the times you have, and there's a cost with that too. It ends up being OT usually, just in terms of that manpower piece too. So I'll stop there, but what our thought, at least several of us, a public event would be a either city-sponsored, not just general public, and anybody can wander in, I guess, to your baby shower, but really a truly publicly sponsored event.
Just to clarify, this would go beyond the roads at Festival Park. It would apply to any city-owned
Correct.
streets.
But our thought was, that's one example of probably your grandest example, because you've got multiple streets, a large park space, versus, and kind of what comes with that. There's only so many times a year you can mobilize for that.
Correct. And that, like Mr. Mall, like you mentioned, some of that was for the wedding. Other things were, we may have had very small events in Festival Park that were closing both roads, impeding traffic. It may be 45 people that are down there, or closing downtown streets for an event that might be their first year. It might get 200 people. And so at that point, the city is expending far more funds that are public funds on closing something that maybe doesn't have a very big impact and and the city is not partnering really in any way.
So if I understand this correctly, you're suggesting that that first definition is more appropriate, better use of city resources, and clarifies the issue fairly well, and limits exposure to all kinds of requests. And I concur. I think that's a great,
Would you agree, Rick?
that's what he,
Yes, and coming from other places that did a lot of city-sponsored events, there were only so many you could actually do, and, you know, plus you had all the other things coming at you, right, 5Ks, everything else. Understand historically there are some entities that would be on the list that you'd have to look at, you know, some are previously approved, some do something right now that might be in the, let's say Festival Park, which in the future might make more sense doing it in Pecan Park as an example.
but that item is broad enough that you could contribute other things if you felt like it was that.
And that would be where we'd bring those to council for consideration for city sponsorship or partnership.
So is this trying to a little bit equalize? We're kind of upside down on spending money for protection, police, cleanup, all that. Are you trying to equalize that a little bit where we're not so upside down all the time?
Well, it's
cost-wise?
kind of, it goes back to that whole, you know, early discussions and prior meetings where we had folks that were basically renting spaces that weren't appropriate for what they were. And then when it is all hands on deck, that really should be for a major city event, or Blueberry, which is chamber/city in kind, those type of events.
Would you go back to the two thing, go back to the other slide, Jessica? I want to go, okay, event permitting process, okay. Okay, would, okay, and then alcohol sales be you, right?
He's very excited about that one.
Yeah.
Now, you have a former rugby player approving, that doesn't make any sense, but yes, that's how it's written.
Okay, road closures only for city-sponsored events. Okay, now go back to the other slide, please. Okay, event permitting process, okay.
And that event permitting process just is the category that wording would go under in these guidelines.
There was a statement that's in the guidelines. Could you read that statement? I don't think they have a copy of that, Jessica.
Okay. There is under private events, so in the event permitting process, that section basically says an event permit must be obtained by the event organizer to host a public event in Nacogdoches that requires the use of city services or takes place on city property. And then also we have a private event section that lists out that private events which are not open to the community will not be allowed on city property. This includes a private and/or ticketed event held by individuals or businesses seeking to limit access to parts of city streets, facilities, or properties. And then it says this exclusion does not apply to these items listed here, as far as park pavilions, Liberty Hall, Zion Hill, and the recreation gymnastics area.
So we had that statement essentially saying that we're not going to allow private events on city property.
Right.
And this was just to clarify that we do have certain facilities that we do rent out for private events. So that was just making that clarification.
Okay,
on
and
that
public
part.
events have to be city-sponsored.
So that's
close
the
the streets.
question. So there was a lot of discussion at the workshop and the subsequent meeting about closing public streets for private events.
gotcha.
And what I think we're trying to get clarification of, if you're talking about a public event, are we talking about sponsorship or are we talking about access? Because those potentially could be two different things. And so that's kind of what you see in the two examples, the two choices that we're trying to get clarification from the council for.
Right.
Are you talking about city sponsorship for when we're talking about closures, or are we talking about if it's open to the public and accessible to the public? Is that what we're talking about when we're talking about road closures?
So to me, it's very important that we choose the first one as you recommended, because otherwise you can have, like, say you want to play music and invite the whole city. you know, it's not appropriate to close the streets. We have merchants, we have just people who want to drive. I mean, this is the city's.
Let's say this, let's say the city's co-sponsored a summer music series and had 3 different concerts, and it's structured that way.
Right.
That would be a different animal than versus someone goes and just basically rents Festival Park, which then it triggers all these other things like you're gearing up for Blueberry.
Right. So, I don't know, I'm ready to make a motion if you're up for it.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
a
there's one-
few
oh,
more little
sorry.
things.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Didn't mean to jump the gun.
No, you're.
And,
so-
and I appreciate you all clarifying it because, I mean, it makes sense that we really do need to clarify that, so.
Absolutely. And so just for the record, we will be going with that first definition of city partnered events are the ones that have
Correct.
the street closures. So our last little item on here, went too far, was requested by our police department. There are a few things like 5Ks, there's a few trail rides, things like that that happen. They do fill out event permits, but they're not closing streets and not requesting to. There, right now, we have a few trail rides that will call the police department over at dispatch and say, we're gonna be at this busy street in 5 minutes, and they will send an officer to help that group cross the street. It takes 5 minutes. It's on-duty officers that are doing that, and so the police department would like the wording left in here so that way they could do those street crossings without closing down streets, you know, doing any big process. It's just a very quick using on-duty officers to help for public safety reasons.
And if it requires a whole lot more, then the event organizer has to pay.
Correct. And that is
that's in
what,
there.
there's, I believe, 1 or 2 events right now that use street crossings for multiple days, and the police officers work that. But they do hire off-duty officers right now, just because it's not a quick 5 minutes for whoever's on duty to run over there. It is additional staff doing that. And so if those changes and additions are good with council, kind of our next steps are the approval and adoption of these updates. And something that Jerry mentioned to me, that we need to include an effective date. On here, we do have a staff recommendation, which of course is up to council. But our recommendation would be this be effective for any event permits submitted after today and those that have not received full approval yet. Because at this point, we have a few in the pipe that, you know, we knew this was coming and didn't want to approve something that would immediately be changed. And so the idea would be this would go into effect today and for any that have not received full approval.
Are you ready for a motion?
Yes.
Okay. I move that we approve the guidelines and clarifications presented to us in item 7H with the effective date immediately for those items that have not yet received full approval and any applications received after June 17th. Did I get that correct? All right.
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, consider appointing members to the Deep East Texas Council of Governments, DECCOG Board of Directors. I have a ballot here. The current members are Kathleen Ballinger, Chad Huckabee, Brad Maul, and Blaine Williams. Mr. Maul has asked to be taken off due to time constraints, and so we will have 3 members that will be members of DECCOG that will stay on. I've already signed this, and whoever needs to get that, if you'll
So-
just make sure.
We get 4 spots on that board.
Right. Well, let's see. I don't want to be on there. So, and he don't want to be on there. So that only leaves 3.
I mean, if it's necessary,
Well, I like you being on there, Brad.
then I'm on it.
And we can have a proxy to whoever is
Yeah.
able to go can vote for you.
Okay, let me have that back then. He's changed his mind.
I didn't change my mind. I was
Yeah, let me have
Coerced.
Yeah.
what is it?
Coerced. Voluntold?
Voluntold.
Yeah.
I have a good time. The meals are great.
And I would just, again, remind the council if we have quorum that might be attending some of these meetings, that notify the city staff so we can
Yes.
properly notice that.
I would just ask the city staff to,
Post
they
everyone.
send a request to find out who's going, because we have to RSVP for the lunches. I would, every time, just automatically say there might be a quorum.
Okay, we have we have a motion. I'll make a motion that we appoint the 4 members, Brad Mall, Blaine Williams, Kathleen Ballinger, and Chad Huckabee as members of DETCOG for the upcoming year. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have a healthy second?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 7J, consider approval of contract bond between the City of Nacogdoches and Enviro Ridge for the 2025 WWTP Equalization Basin Sediment Removal Project utilizing TIPS Cooperative Purchasing Contract in the amount of $530,364.
Everybody still awake for wastewater treatment?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Our favorite topic.
So this item is to requesting approval of a contract between the City of Nacogdoches and Enviro Dredge to dredge our existing equalization basin. I'm going to skip actually to the picture real quick first. Our equalization basin at the wastewater treatment plant. So this pond, essentially, what it does is it takes any excess flow kind of after initial first flush from a high rain event to then divert to the sedimentation equalization basin to then lower the load on the plant until we can let the plant process the wastewater after a rain event and then take this water into the plant. And it hasn't been done, from my records, talking to even Bart and Ronnie, been out there for a while. Bart's been there 10 years, and we've never dredged it. And so the item, it is budgeted, and although it did not have as much sediment as we thought it might have in it, which is a good thing, every foot of sediment buildup out there is about 2 million gallons worth of water that you're taking up that you could be able to put into the pond. So it is staff's recommendation that, being as how it is a budgeted item, probably won't have to do it for a long time. Again, they've never done it in the time they've been out there, and it will help during these high rain events that continually seem to happen. I haven't seen the pond. I've only been here 2 years, and the pond's only stayed full almost for the 2 years now. Hasn't been dry enough. Usually over time it will drop without rain events, but we seem to just keep it full. And by removing this additional sediment in the pond, it will just gain us that much more additional volume to hold some of that rainwater. And I mean sewage does go in there, but it's aerated. It's kind of a pre-treatment process before then we can send it back into the headworks of the plant after the rain event, and the plant has had time to kind of settle down and gain back its normal process. So this is just, Enviro Dredge is fairly local. They're in New Summerfield. They do this for municipalities. They do it for public. If you have a pond on your place or a lake, they'll dredge it. We had a bathymetric survey done to determine how much volume was in the pond, how much sediment was in the pond. There's a nice, pretty map they gave us, but we think it's a good idea. Staff recommends getting this done, and I don't think we'll have to do it unless we have some sort of catastrophic event where really everything comes out of the creeks and mud just enters into the pond all by itself, not through the collection system. This won't have to be done for another 10 to 12 years probably. So is that your consideration of approval?
Anybody have any questions on what he's talking about?
Yeah, how many feet are you gonna take out, do you think?
Well, it's probably somewhere between 1.5 and 2 feet.
So 3 million, it would be.
Yeah,
extra.
and there's some high spots, so it's not equal fill across the pond. So there's some spots in the pond that are about normal, and there's some spots where, as water flows around, it builds up in areas. We're gonna really knock some of these high spots out to then get us back to full pond capacity.
Is there a bottom in this thing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, China.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that.
Brad,
No,
I wouldn't fish or swim in this pond.
Well,
It
that's what I was
does-
wondering about is a catfish honey hole.
It does hold a lot of ducks in wintertime, I'll tell you that.
You better have
Is that
some
too bad?
strong constitution to do that.
Do you,
We just haven't stayed here long enough yet.
you have any more questions, Brad?
Well,
And we go
is there
home.
any possibility of getting 1 cent out of
And we
anything?
go home now.
Getting one
I'd
cent.
like to make a motion that we,
go
can
I
I?
just want to make Randy laugh.
Oh,
There's
there's probably some sense in the bottom of the pond.
Kathleen, go, please.
Before I hear any more jokes, and before Mr. Beverland starts telling more jokes, I would like to make the motion that we approve the contract as outlined in item 7J.
I'd like to second it.
All in favor?
He beat me.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay.
So aren't you excited to come up here?
The last item, consider approval of resolution number 1393-06-25, amending a Chapter 380 Economic Development Program Agreement by and between the City of Nacogdoches and Cooper Power Systems LLC Eaton to amend construction deadlines and set a limitation for valuation triggering allowance of property tax protest.
Mayor and Council, your Executive Director of Economic Development, Larissa Philpott-Brown. This is going to go fast, I promise. This is just housekeeping. As you may remember, you all approved an economic development agreement with Eaton Cooper Power in 2003. All of those agreements have deadlines in them, just to make sure that progress is made. Progress was made. We all saw it. There's a giant building on that property. Typical of construction of a building this size, there were some slowdowns. And so Eaton has requested to extend some of those deadlines by just a small amount to make sure that they get everything in on time. While we were discussing the potential to move those deadlines out, Eaton also brought up the Section 4G, which is in the original agreement that originally stated that they cannot protest their tax valuation. In another jurisdiction, after Nacogdoches had approved that original agreement, another jurisdiction that Eaton is located in, they received a 300% increase in one of their property valuations year over year. And so that led them to look at all of their agreements and look for this section. They requested that we remove that section entirely. Mr. Beverland and I, while Eaton is a fantastic community partner, we felt like we needed to stick somewhat to the original intent of that agreement, and so we requested kind of a threshold be established, and we negotiated a 10% limitation year over year, and then a 50% limitation over a rolling 5-year period. Eaton is fine with that. And so we are ready to request an updated agreement for you. We do have Mike Rosselli, who has sat very patiently on the call for us today with Eaton's tax district or tax division, and he can answer any questions you might have as well.
Good evening, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mike. You should have gone home.
In fairness, I am in my home office,
Okay.
so.
All right. Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 1393-06-25, amending the Chapter 380 agreement between the city and Cooper Power Systems as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I want to say one thing. I get up very, very early in the morning, and my normal route to my warehouse is by Eaton. At 5 o'clock in the morning, it's the greatest thing in the world, seeing that parking lot full and those employees working, and it is a beautiful, beautiful facility, and we are so glad that Eaton is a part of the city of Nacogdoches, and we're partnering with y'all. Now, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mike.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the kind words. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, that concludes tonight's meeting. We are done. We will adjourn. God bless the great city of Nacogdoches, Texas. It is 7:24.